华人民共和国中央人民政府今天胜利了。
为建设富强、民主、文明、和谐、美丽的社会主义现代化强国努力奋斗。
In the city of Shenzhen, a 6-meter-tall bronze statue of Deng Xiaoping towers over Lianhua Shan Park. It's a monument to a policy that would change China forever, the reform and opening up. In early 1992, Deng undertook a tour of southern China. The comments he made during that trip launched a deepening and speeding up of China's reforms. When, 20 years later, Xi Jinping first toured the country as CPC General Secretary, he made Shenzhen his first stop. He laid a floral tribute in front of the statue of Deng Xiaoping and planted a council tree. In commemorating a time when China had been starting to make rapid progress, he was signaling another fresh beginning. China was about to write a new chapter in the history of reform and opening up. If the reform and opening up is likened to a river in full flow, then after more than 30 years, it has reached the sea. But here it is confronted by reefs, undercurrents and whirlpools. With the risks and dangers multiplying, the only option is to forge ahead.
China 是正在发生深刻变革的国家。需要解决的都是难啃的硬骨头，这时候需要的是明知山有虎，偏向虎山行的勇气，不断把改革推向前进。
The aftermath of the international financial crisis is still being felt around the world today. Economic growth remains slow. Global governance is in turmoil, and unilateralism and protectionism are spreading. China is standing at a historic crossroads. The rapid development of the past has created a series of potentially damaging, deep-rooted issues. The economic structure is imperfect. The development in the cities and rural areas is unequal. Excess capacity exists in certain industries, and the environment is suffering from overexploitation. The issues resulting from the rapid development are both obvious and more deep-seated. They have become intertwined, forming a complex mesh of contradictions. This means that the next phase of reform is not about building high-rises, but about rising above the fray and aiming for higher goals. However, comprehensively deepening reform in a country of 1.4 billion people is no easy task. If reform is to be pushed forward, top-level planning must be strengthened. The overall goals for comprehensively deepening reform were set by the third plenary session of the 18th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China in November 2013. They are to perfect and develop socialism with Chinese characteristics and modernize the state's system of governance and its governing capabilities. The document setting these goals comprises over 21,000 Chinese characters. It covers 60 aspects of the reform and 336 specific measures for deepening it. By setting out the guiding ideology, targeted tasks and major principles for comprehensively deepening reform, it serves as a fresh blueprint and offers a vision clarifying the importance and direction of the policy. Reform, as it enters the deep water zone, encounters more problems, covers more areas, and produces deeper contradictions than ever before. Old approaches, such as departments acting independently, are no longer viable. Instead, it becomes necessary to concentrate on coordination and the systematic implementation of reform across every area. The main goal in comprehensively deepening reform is to develop a forward-thinking strategy. To this end, decisions should be taken that serve the objective requirements of the reform and reflect a deeper and more systematic understanding of it. Comprehensively deepening reform is a complex undertaking that extends into every field: politics, the economy, culture, society, ecological civilization, national defense, the military, and party construction. Every aspect, level, and element of the reform must be considered, and individual reforms must complement and benefit one another. The CPC Central Committee established the Central Leading Group for Comprehensively Deepening Reform. Headed by Xi Jinping, it was responsible for overall design, planning, and implementation. Despite the dangerous seas and treacherous shoals they are encountering, reforms are advancing steadily and vigorously in every field. The third plenary session of the 18th CPC Central Committee heralded a new era in the reform and opening up. Comprehensively deepening reform takes into consideration both the present and the long-term situations. It reflects the intensity and tempo of the ongoing reforms, as well as the main and secondary contradictions inherent in them. Attention can be diverted to where it's needed the most by identifying the key points and planning for every eventuality. The economic system is a key focus of the effort to comprehensively deepen reform. The core issue is managing the relationship between the government and the market. During the reform and opening up, the CPC has deepened its understanding of this relationship. The third plenary session of the 18th CPC Central Committee stated, the market should play a decisive role in the allocation of resources, and the government should play a more effective role. The assertion represented another great theoretical leap forward by the CPC. In January 2013, Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei province were enveloped in dense smog for over 20 days. Investigations revealed that the affected areas coincided almost exactly with places with high concentrations of heavy industry. This proved the existence of a contradiction between development and the environment. China was the biggest steel producer in the world, and Hebei province accounted for much of its output. During peak periods, Hebei alone turned out more steel than the world's second biggest steel-producing country. Around the same time as the dense smog, the National Bureau of Statistics released its Economic Development Index for 2012. The data showed that China's economy grew by 7.8%. Under the influence of considerable downward pressure, it had fallen below 8% for the first time in the 21st century. Behind the macro numbers was the pain felt by traditional industries. In the steel, coal, and cement sectors, very few companies were doing more than barely breaking even. The Chinese economy urgently needed solutions. Xi Jinping responded to the situation by introducing the concept of the new normal in economic development. This new normal reflected the reality that economic growth was slowing, the economic structure needed optimizing, and the focus should be shifted to new fields. As growth slowed from fast to medium fast, the economy was going from being investment-driven to innovation-driven. The new normal was a scientific explanation of the theoretical and practical question of how the economy was faring.
为了从根本上解决中国经济长远发展问题，必须坚定推动结构改革，宁可将增长速度降下来一些。任何一项事业都需要远近兼顾、深谋远虑、杀鸡取卵、竭泽而渔式的发展是不会长久的。
If it was to adapt to the new normal, the Chinese economy needed fresh solutions. In 2015, Xi Jinping pointed out that sustained economic development could be generated and a jump in productivity achieved by strengthening structural supply-side reform and improving the quality and efficiency of the system of supply. The CPC Central Committee came up with a 5-point plan based on the main idea of structural supply-side reform. Like a soldier who cuts off an infected hand, the Chinese economy rid itself of its old development concept. Henceforth, development would be new and high quality. It would focus on efficiency and be driven by innovation. These are the offices of a robot manufacturer in Shunde, Guangdong Province. In this 3,000 square meter space, there is a PhD or master's degree holder for every 6 square meters. In just a year, the company developed 8 construction robots. 2 years ago, this was a dilapidated factory building producing small pieces of hardware. At one time, village-level industrial parks had been the cradle of the Pearl River Delta manufacturing industry. But after decades of unchecked growth, the area had become home to more than 3,800 small and inefficient industrial parks. Reform was urgently needed, but it would be difficult.
你去拆它的，就等于拆自己的房子一样。还有个更困难是什么？又要它表决通过，你看，你说这个难不难？
In March 2018, Xi Jinping took part in discussions by the Guangdong delegation to the annual sessions of the NPC and CPPCC. He urged the province to take the lead nationally and step up the construction of institutional mechanisms for ensuring high-quality development. The provincial government subsequently made Shunde district a high-quality development system reform and innovation pilot area. In a single year, the industrial park came up with 6 major new approaches to restructuring and 12 new practices. Around 600 hectares was cleared for it. In the first half of 2019, investment grew by 20.6% and its GDP by 7.1%. Over the next 5 years, the value of the local robotics industry is expected to exceed 200 billion yuan. While the manufacturing sector was renewing itself, the tertiary industry was playing a growing role in supporting the economy. From 2012 to 2018, the value added by the tertiary industry as a percentage of China's GDP grew from 44.6% to 52.2%. In the same period, the contribution of final consumption to economic growth increased from 51.8% to 76.2%.
初步核算，上半年国内生产总值45万零933亿元，按可比价格计算，同比增长6.3%。
On July the 15th, China's economic numbers for the first half of 2019 were released. In spite of the global economic slowdown, the Chinese economy remained stable and was achieving high-quality development. This was possible thanks to the clear-headed decision-making and deep insights of the CPC Central Committee with Xi Jinping as its core. The progress also reflected the advances being made in economic reform. Profound structural changes were breaking the Chinese economy out of its cocoon. This situation made it essential to embrace the new development concept of innovation, coordination, green development, openness, and sharing. Reform comes about in response to a call by the people. In comprehensively deepening reform, it is important to give the people a sense of gain. This can be done by addressing those issues that affect them most directly.
原来我们办理的过程中，去办理一个公司啊，举个例子啊，就像西天取经一样，九九八十一难。
When Chen Xiaodong wanted to establish a company after graduating from university in 2007, it took a fortnight just to get its name approved. Setting up a company meant embarking on a long march, battling through red tape.
最多跑一次啊，就是为了解决老百姓、企业办事难、办事烦这个来回跑、反复跑等等一些不方便的问题。
所有的部门所有的工作人员要以整体政府的理念破除政府部门的壁垒。
The one-stop shop reform was designed to do away with the old system of several dozen departments acting without coordination. A trial was conducted by the city of Hangzhou, in which the handling of 991 items was centralized. Through it, the CPC demonstrated its determination to carry out reform, however difficult it might be.
现在完全不一样了然后这次我们还体验了一下那个整个在线办理，只需要我们在网上下载个 APP， 然后呢，把办理的内容确定下填入进去以后，我们签字用手签，然后只要确认一下，第二天营业执照就可以拿了。那如果我们自己去，他会寄给我们；如果我们去拿，当天就可以办好。从原来的要跑很多趟，到变成了只要跑一趟，到现在的不用跑。 现在政府真的发生了很多的变化。
Based on the experience gained in Hangzhou, the one-stop shop reform is being carried out nationwide. Comprehensively deepening reform covers areas including finance and taxation, the streamlining of administration, the delegation of power, and the optimizing of pricing. Reforms of the commercial system are also moving forward. A negative list for market access has been adopted, and the concepts of mixed ownership, property rights protection, and the protection of entrepreneurs are being embraced. Simultaneously, state-owned capital and other types of capital ownership are complementing each other and developing together. The World Bank's Doing Business 2019 report ranked China 46th out of 190 economies in terms of its business environment. This is an improvement of 50 places since 2013. The reforms that are coming into effect one after another are injecting fresh vitality into the market. They are not simply resolving current challenges, they are also designed for the long term. They are in line with China's modernization process and helping to create a more complete, comprehensive, and practical economic system. In February 2018, after studying the issue of institutional reform, the third plenary session of the 19th CPC Central Committee passed 2 documents. Both were aimed at deepening the reform of party and government institutions. The decision to adopt them represented a major move forward in comprehensively deepening reform. They provide support and guarantees for reform in every field. Unlike previous institutional reforms, which had mainly focused on the government, the comprehensive reforms of 2018 affected the party, the government, the National People's Congress, the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, the judiciary, communities, social organizations, public institutions, and the military. They extended across every level, from the central to local authorities. An inherent requirement and major task in deepening the reform of party and government institutions is to strengthen the overall leadership of the CPC. This is the key political factor in the entire reform process. On March the 13th, 2018, the State Council submitted a plan for institutional reform to the first meeting of the 13th National People's Congress for review. The depth and breadth of its 20 reform initiatives exceeded everyone's expectations. They embodied the vision and determination of the CPC Central Committee, with Xi Jinping as its core, to carry out reform. Institutional reform is now advancing with irresistible force, following the timetable and roadmap laid out by the CPC Central Committee. Within a few months, not only had new and restructured departments been set up, they had also completed the entire process of planning and transferring their work. More than 80 institutions directly under the CPC Central Committee and government were affected. The restructuring resolved more than 60 long-standing issues relating to overlapping responsibilities and poor interdepartmental relations. The new Department of Emergency Management took over 13 responsibilities previously shared by 11 departments. Its new emergency response system provides unified command and the ability for dealing with both everyday and exceptional crises. It is highly responsive, has an integrated chain of command, and combines peacetime and wartime capabilities. Its restructured organizational and management system and integrated disaster prevention and rescue model make emergency management work more systematic, integrated, and coordinated. As a result, emergency management and major safety risk prevention and neutralization work are now founded on stronger institutional guarantees. At the closing session of a meeting on deepening the reform of party and government institutions in July 2019, Xi Jinping pointed out that the reform involved the systematic and comprehensive restructuring of party and government institutions and management systems. It represented an important symbol of political and government reform in the new era. Land ownership has always been at the heart of reform in the Chinese countryside. As the overall reform progresses, the land provides a starting point, a source of sustenance, and fresh opportunities for deepening systematic reform.
现在我们这个无人机喷洒农药，比原先喷洒农药它的效益高了20倍也多。
Wang Yanli from Wangjuan village in Zhaozhuang City, Shandong province, can't hide his excitement when he describes the benefits of land transfer. Yet in 2012, he lost a lot of money when villagers who had transferred their land to him suddenly demanded it back.
我们给老百姓订合同没有法律依据。
When land ownership is unclear, it creates worries both for those who contract it and for those who use it. In September 2014, the fifth meeting of the leading group for comprehensively deepening reform set the tone for rural land reform. It proposed separating the three rights of rural collective land ownership. In November 2016, the opinions on improvements to the method of separating the rights of ownership, contracting, and management of rural land was issued. Building on the system of collective land ownership, the right of contracting was given to the contractor, while the right of management could be transferred. This was the biggest innovation in land reform in rural China since the adoption of the household responsibility system.
这有了这个政策，我们订了合同，我们就放心了，就大胆的干，长期的稳定的投入。
The wheat-growing collective Wang Yanli established with several friends has signed land transfer contracts with some 1,900 farmers. Through a 10 million yuan investment, they have turned the 550 hectares into a large-scale farm. In 2018, they established an intensive grain processing company. Standardized new technology carries out 98% of the work. The millions of Chinese people who have moved from the countryside to the cities embody the vitality created by rural reform. For many years, rural migrant workers were the backbone of the labor force building China's burgeoning cities. But life wasn't easy. Although they lived there, they didn't enjoy the same access as the urban residents to public services, such as education, employment opportunities, social security, medical treatment, and affordable housing. The third plenary session of the 18th CPC Central Committee accelerated the reform of household registration. In June 2014, the Central Committee's leading group for comprehensively deepening reform adopted a proposal for a new household registration system. By allowing farmers to settle in cities, the new system would hasten the tearing down of barriers between city and countryside. Cities with a population of less than 1 million would remove all residence restrictions. The reform of the household registration system has been accelerated in 2019. Cities with a population of 1 to 3 million must remove all restrictions on registration, and cities with a population of 3 to 5 million must relax the requirements and remove all restrictions for key groups.
把农村户口直接迁到市里来了，这样的话，就是我们孩子上学也是比较方便。同时呢，我们还可以享受城镇的一些医保和住房的一些保障。也就是说，我们的生活算是真的融入到城市里面了。
From 2014 to 2018, more than 90 million rural migrants became city residents. China's urban population thus grew to 43.37% of the total. The CPC Central Committee's goal of granting permanent urban resident status to 100 million migrant workers has now almost been achieved. Following the 18th CPC National Congress, a series of reforms were adopted designed to meet the hopes and most pressing demands of the people. As their expectations for social equality and justice were met, the people felt a sense of gain, happiness, and security.
我生第一个宝宝的时候，要办完出生证，然后再回老家长口去办户口本啊，然后再到环保所去办这种接种疫苗卡。现在的话，我在医院可以一次性把这些证啊和手续全部办完。
The fifth plenary session of the 18th CPC Central Committee decided to allow all married couples to have a second child. From 2016 to 2018, more than 20 million second children were born to the joy of their families. As China's financial strength grows, its social security net is also becoming more secure. Health insurance subsidies have nearly doubled since 2012, and more than 70% of hospital stay costs can be reimbursed. In 2018, 17 types of cancer drugs were included in the health insurance scheme, with an average price reduction of 56.7%. In line with the principle that houses are for living in, not speculation, in 2018, 6 million homes were renovated to provide housing for people in financial difficulties. Education reforms are also being stepped up. More than 90% of handicapped children now have access to schooling, and nutrition improvement plans for students cover every impoverished county. As for seniors, medical treatment is being integrated into their health care at an increasing pace, and the market for elderly care services is being opened up. The 18th CPC Central Committee convened 38 meetings of the leading group for comprehensively deepening reform. It passed 365 major reform documents, determined 357 key reform tasks, and unveiled more than 1,500 reform measures. In China today, key reforms are progressing steadily in many fields. They include the economy, education, the judiciary, environmental protection, elderly care, employment, medicine, sanitation, and party building and discipline. A main framework for comprehensively deepening reform, consisting of multiple pillars in every field, has basically been established. Reform encourages opening up, and opening up encourages reform. China, as it adapts to the globalization trend, is swimming boldly into the open sea of the international market and continuously increasing its openness. Pudong, on the east bank of the Huangpu River, opposite the Bund in Shanghai. In 2013, China's first free trade zone was established here. In 2018, the entire island of Hainan was designated a pilot free trade zone. The development of free trade ports with Chinese characteristics was fully underway. From north to south, from the coast to the hinterland, China has established 18 free trade zones over the past 6 years. 202 systemic innovations have been generated in these zones, which have been copied elsewhere. As a result, a more market-oriented, international and legally based domestic business environment has been created. That the negative list for foreign investment access is getting shorter and shorter is a sign that China is opening its door ever wider. From establishing a mechanism connecting the Hong Kong and Shanghai stock markets to raising foreign equity caps in banking, securities and insurance. From organizing the China International Import Expo to issuing the new foreign investment law, which will come into effect in 2020. China, through its actions, is showing its determination to open up further. During his opening remarks at the Boao Forum on April the 10th, 2018, Xi Jinping stated that China would ease foreign equity restrictions, especially in the automotive sector. 7 days later, the National Development and Reform Commission unveiled a policy to remove foreign equity caps on special use and new energy vehicles. Tesla, which had for many years wanted to build a factory in China, was among the first to take advantage of the new policy. In July 2018, the company signed a cooperation agreement and a land lease contract 3 months later. On July the 1st, 2019, work began on the first wholly foreign-owned new energy vehicle manufacturing project in China, the Shanghai Tesla Gigafactory in the Lingang Industrial Zone. In August 2019, installation began of the production equipment at the 90-hectare facility. Tesla is not the only company to enjoy such support. Free access to investment, trade, financing, logistics, and employment services is widely available. China, where data flows safely across international borders and internationally competitive tax laws and policies are in force, is systematically opening up to the world. The country is opening its arms even wider in welcome to the world. As its scope for development grows in the new era, it is making greater contributions than ever before to an open world economy.
古老的大地重生崭新的神话，诗和远方的目标。
Practice has proven that the reform and opening up has been essential in helping the CPC and the Chinese people keep abreast of the times. It's the only path that allows the country to stick to and develop socialism with Chinese characteristics.
新时代的好酒中再一次出发，歌声和汗水一路挥洒，中国梦的旗帜下再一次出发，追梦的人们雄姿英发，满载千年宏愿再一次出发。
改革开放已走过千山万水，但仍需跋山涉水。摆在全党全国各族人民面前的使命更光荣，任务更艰巨，挑战更严峻，工作更伟大。在这个千帆竞发、百舸争流的时代，我们绝不能有半点骄傲自满。 固步自封，也绝不能有丝毫犹豫不决、徘徊、彷徨。必须同揽伟大斗争、伟大工程、伟大事业、伟大梦想，勇立潮头，奋勇搏击。
It was a comprehensive analysis and a heartfelt salute to 40 years of reform and opening up. It was also a declaration that China would carry on tomorrow just as it is doing today and has done before.